Welcome back to Globesweeper Hex Puzzler. Today we're gonna take a look at Convergence, and I would imagine this is gonna be a single level video because Convergence is quite tricky and quite lengthy, so let's get to it. So, to start out, it's already a bit of a tricky thing. We have to look at this 4 here along with these 3 1s, specifically these 2 1s. This one doesn't really matter here, but if we think about this one and this one, out of these 6 tiles we have to mark 4 for this 4, but we can only mark 1 here bordering this max 1 tile, because we can't have 2, then it's a 2 chain. So we can only have 1 tile here, and for this max 1, we can at most only have 1 tile here. So if we then count the 4, we have 1, 2, and 3 and 4. So we have to have 2 tiles here, and we'll have to have 1 tile here and 1 tile here. That gave us a 4 cluster here, with now 2 tiles. And now, we only have 2 options for this 4 tile. It either goes onward here, or onward here. Now, what happens in either case? If we go left here to mark 3 tiles for this 4, then this max 1 tile lets us know that this tile can't be connected to any other tiles, so then we would disconnect these 2 tiles, and then this 4 is left with 3 tiles, and it has to go onward here. If we don't mark this tile, and we instead mark this one for the 3rd tile, then same over here. We have a max 1 tile that lets us know that this tile could not connect up to here or here, so these would be disconnected, and once again the 4 would have 3 tiles and has to go here. So this 4 needs to use these 2 tiles to complete itself. It's not possible to use more tiles in either direction, so we have to mark both of these and disconnect the tiles surrounding them. And then now we can kind of go wherever we want here, so I guess let's start by going down here. There's also going to be quite a lot of just basic tile solving, like the one here, which I'm not going to explain too much. I'll explain when there's special things to take into consideration. So here we have a max 1 tile, with 1 tile here, so we can't mark this tile or we would make a 2 chain, so that's disconnected. That gives us a max 1 tile area, or max 1 area. So this tile can't be connected up to anything else, because then it would be a 2 chain in this max 1 area. So this is disconnected. And then now, bit tricky again, we need to mark 1 tile here for this 2. When we do that, we can't mark this tile, because this tile is connected to both of these tiles. So if we were to place a tile here, then because of this max 1 area, we would have to disconnect all the tiles within here that are touching this 1, or this tile, so we would have to disconnect both of these tiles, which is not possible for the 2. So this tile cannot be marked, we have to disconnect that tile. Now, because we know we'll use one of these 2 tiles, this 5 will have 1 here, and then has to have 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we get a tile here that's in the max 1 area, so we can't connect it up to anything else, so these 3 tiles have to be disconnected, and now we can just solve the tiles like normal. Now here we got a 3 area with already 3 tiles marked, so these tiles are removed. And the 4 here and the 1, this max 1 tile has 1 tile here, so we can't mark this one, the neighboring tile, so that's disconnected. And now, this 9 area, we need 9 in this area, but keep in mind we cannot use more than 1 of these 2 tiles, because that would be a 2 chain here. So if we count, we have 1, 2, maybe 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So we have to mark all of the tiles here, and we have to have 1 of these tiles marked for this max 1 tile. So, now let's first just look over here, I guess. We have an 8 cluster here that now has 8 tiles, so these connecting tiles have to be disconnected. The 2 here is done, and here we have a 5 with 4 tiles, and we need 1 of these tiles marked for the final tile for this 1, so these 3 tiles are disconnected. Then here, we know that this 2 will get 1 tile here from this 1, and then it has to have this tile as well. And now this max 1 tile has 1 tile and can't have the neighboring one, so that's disconnected. And now we have to look over here again, so this 6 has 5 tiles. We know that 1 of these tiles must be marked for this 9 area. We only have 8 tiles in this 9, so 1 of these will be marked, and that will in turn complete this 6. So the 6 can't have these connecting tiles. So these are all disconnected. And then we get the 4 here. And now the 7 here with 5 tiles, 6 tiles, and we have to mark this one for the final tile. And now the 6 area is done, and this 9 is done. Now we can look at this 7 area here. And we have 3 tiles marked already. We need to mark 4 more tiles. But if we think about this max 2 tile here, we can't use all 4 of these tiles for this max 2, or like all the 3 remaining tiles. Because if we mark all 4 here, then we've marked 4 tiles and we don't have a separate 2 chain for this tile. So there has to be at least one gap in here, so we can at most use 2 of these 3 tiles. And then if we count, we have 3 tiles marked, maybe 2, so 5 total, and then we only have 6 and 7 left. So we have to mark these 2 tiles, and we will need to use 2 tiles out of these 3 tiles. This 2 is now done here, and we got a 2 cluster here. The 2 cluster can only connect up to 1 more tile, and because we know we need 2 out of 3 of these tiles, that means that we have to use 1 tile here, and then this tile. So that's marked, and this 2 now can't connect up here, or it would be a 4 cluster, and same over here. And then we get this tile for the final tile in the 7. This 2 cluster is now done, the 3 is done, the 2 is done. Now this 6 here has 4 tiles, and only 2 more, so we have to mark both of them. And then this 4 here has 3 tiles, and we need 1 more tile here for this 2, making it 4, so these tiles have to be disconnected. And then we get a 4 here, and this 2 is done, and the 4, this 2 is done, and the 5. And that's as far as we can go here in the south of the puzzle. We have to leave this for now and go back up where we started. So here we have a 1, and this max 1 tile has 1 tile here, so it can't connect up to this one. This 2, let's just mark these 2, and that's all we can do here for now. Now this max 1 tile has a tile here, so this tile can't be marked, and we get a 5 here, so all of those are marked. And then now we look at this 7. So the 7 has 4 tiles total. We can have 1 more here, or we will have 1 more here for this 2, so that's 5. And then we have only 6 and 7 remaining, so these 2 have to be marked. That now gave us a 7 cluster. That's already completed. We already have 7 tiles in this cluster, so all of the connecting tiles have to be disconnected. And we get this tile for the 2. And this one is done. And now we look at this 7 area here, which has 5 tiles marked here. And then for this 2, we'll have 2 more tiles here, so that's going to complete the 7. And these 2 tiles cannot be marked. Then we get this tile for the 2 and this for the 3, completing this 2, and we can just move onward here. So now we could go up or we could go left. Let's continue left for now. So this 1 is done, and these ones need these tiles. This 2 is done, and then we have a 4 and a 5 cluster. This 4 cluster has to go here for 2 tiles, this 5 cluster has to go here for 2 tiles, and now they can't join up here because they have to have separate amounts, so this tile has to be disconnected. And now this 4 cluster has to go here for 3, and the 5 cluster has to go here for 3. Once again, they can't join up, so this tile has to be removed. Now we get a max 3 tile here. In 5 tiles, that means since we have to have 1 chain at least that's exactly 3 tiles, to make a 3 tile in 5 tiles, we only have 3 options. We have to either use these 3 tiles, or these 3 tiles, or these 3 tiles. So regardless, we have to use this center tile in 5 tiles to make a 3 chain. If we disconnect this tile, then we only have 2 tiles here and 2 tiles here, and we can't make a 3 chain. So this tile has to be marked. Because we marked this, the 4 now can't use this tile, or it would be a 5 cluster. So that has to be deleted, and the 4 has to finish over here. And we disconnect that from all the tiles, and this 3 is done. Now here, we still need to make the 3 chain for this tile, so we have to use this tile. That completes this 5 chain, and we can, or 5 cluster, and we can disconnect all of the connecting tiles. This 2 is done, and the 0, this 4, some basic tiles here, just solve all of these. Shouldn't be too hard. And then we can go either way. Let's look here, I suppose. This max 1 area cannot have more than 1 tile in a row, so this tile can't connect up to this one. This tile can't connect up to either or any of these 3. The 4 here needs these tiles, and the 2 is done, and this tile is marked. Now we go up here and look at the max 3 area, which has a 3 chain here, so we can't mark this tile, or it would be a 4 chain for this max 3, so that's disconnected. The 3 here is already done. This max 1 tile has a tile here, so we can't connect up the adjacent one, and we get the 2 here, and again we can't connect up the adjacent one to the max 1. This 1 is done, and the 4, and this max 2 tile needs to have a 2 chain in these 3 tiles, so we have to mark the center tile. If we disconnect that, then we only have 2 separate tiles and no way to make a 2 chain. So that has to be marked, and now we have our 2 chain, so this tile has to be removed. A max 1 tile with 1 tile, so I think I can probably stop explaining the max 1 tiles now, just always disconnect all neighboring tiles around a max 1. We get the 5 here, disconnect this for max 1, and this area has 3 tiles already, so that's done, and these 4 tiles are removed. This tile is marked for the 1, and now we have another pretty tricky section. So here we have a 10 cluster with 4 and 9 tiles, so we only need 1 more tile in this 10. Here we have a 6 area with 3 tiles already, and only 4 more tiles available. So one of these 4 tiles will be removed, but this tile is connected up to the 10 cluster, and the 10 cluster can only have 1 more tile. So let's think about what happens if we remove all the tiles in this area for the 6. If we were to remove this tile, then we would have to mark all 3 of these tiles remaining. And that would make too many tiles for the 10 cluster. That would be 10, 11, and 12 total for the 10. So that doesn't work. If we disconnect this tile, then we still have to mark these 2 tiles, and once again that's 11 tiles for the 10, so it's too many. The only way to keep this 10 from getting too many tiles is to disconnect this tile for the 6. If this tile is marked in any way, then we have to mark at least one of these 2 as well, and that's too many for the 10 cluster. So this tile has to go, and these 3 tiles have to be marked. This 4 is now done, so this tile is disconnected. Here we have once again a max 3 in 5 tiles, which means the center tile has to be marked, or there's no way to make a 3 chain. And then we have to disconnect this tile to preserve this 3 chain. This 3 is now done, and the 3 is marked, and the 2, and this 2, and then now we have 9 tiles in this 10 cluster. This is the only option for it to move on and get 10 tiles, so that has to be marked, completing this 2. Once again, here we have a max 2 tile in 3 tiles, so we have to mark the center tile and disconnect this tile. This 1 is done. Same thing here, center tile has to be marked, and that's disconnected. And that's as far as we can go here in this area, so leave that for now and go back to the east, and we'll continue up here now. Max 2 tile, 3 tiles, center tile has to be marked, and this is disconnected. This 2 is done, this 2 needs these tiles, and again, basic tiles. This 3 needs these 2 tiles, and now we once again have a little bit of a tricky thing. So this max 2 tile has 3 tiles here, but we need to have a 2 chain in here. So that means we have to have at least 1 gap in these 3 tiles. We can't mark all of these tiles, or we would have a 4 chain and not a 2 chain for this max 2. And if we look at this 10 here, we need 10 tiles here. We have 5 tiles already, and then how many tiles can we place? We can place 6, 7, 8, and then we need to use 2 tiles here. We can't use more than 2 tiles here, as I've said, because then we can't make a 2 chain. So we have to mark these 3 tiles for the 10, and then we'll need to use 2 of these 3 tiles. Because of that, we now also got a 6 cluster with 5 tiles. So at this point, the 6 cluster can at most use 1 of these 2 tiles. And because we know we'll use 2 out of the 3 tiles here for the 10 cluster, if we can only use 1 of these 2 tiles, we have to use this tile. And because we have used that tile, we now have a 2 chain for this max 2 tile, so this tile has to be deleted. And then, finally for the 10, we need to mark this tile for the final tile. And the 6 cluster is now done, so we can remove all of the connected tiles. This 3 is done as well, and this max 2 tile only has 1 tile. We have to make a 2 chain, and this is the only spot for it. This 3 is now done. Max 1, disconnect the neighboring tile. max 4 in 5 tiles, we have to use the 3 center tiles. If any of these tiles are removed, there's no longer any way to make a 4 chain. So these 3 tiles have to be marked, and then we get the 4 chain, and this tile is disconnected. And then once again, we get the 4 right there. This 2 is done, and the 2 here, and again, just basic tiles. Max 2 and 3 tiles, center has to be marked, and this has to be disconnected. But now, again, it's a bit of a tricky area. So here we have a 5 cluster with 3 tiles. We need to mark 2 more tiles for this 5 cluster. But here, we have a max 3 area with 2 tiles here, so we can at most mark 1 more tile connected to this 5. If we were to mark this tile, then the max 3 area would be done, because that's a 3 chain, and all of these tiles would have to be deleted, and then the 5 cluster would only be left with 4 tiles. So that's not possible, it can't go here. You can also just think of it as like, because we need to use two more tiles for this 5, but we can only use 1 more tile in this entire max 3 area for this 5 cluster, we have to go outside of this area. So we have to use this tile and then go out here. But we can also just, as I said, if you think about this tile, then all of these would be disconnected, and that's not possible, so this one can't be marked. But yeah, then the 5 goes down here, and then we have now our 3 chain here, so this tile can't be marked, or it would be a 4 chain in this area. And this tile is marked for the final tile in the 5. And we disconnect it from everything else, and then this is done, we get the 3 here, some basic tiles here. Max 2 tile here has to have the center marked in 3 tiles, and this has to be disconnected. And then this 2 is done, and now we look at this max 2 area here. We can't connect up more tiles to this area or to this area, because then it would be a 3 chain in this area, so these 2 are removed, and these 2 are removed. And then we get this tile marked for the 2 here, and I think we can just look at this area now. Yeah, the 5 area here has 2 tiles already. We can have 1 tile here at most, so we have 2, 3, and then we have to mark 4 and 5. And because we need 1 of these tiles, the 1 will be done, so this tile can't be marked. And then we get these 3 tiles marked for this 3, and the 1 is done. Let's leave this for now and just complete this little area. This is again a bit of a tricky thing. This 4 is done here, and this 4 needs these tiles. Now we have a 5 cluster and a 7 cluster. This 5 cluster has to go over here, that's the only option, so that has to be marked. And then this joint tile has to be disconnected, or we connect up the 5 and 7, so that's disconnected. But now, what do we do? You can think about this in 2 different ways. Either you think just what happens if this 5 were to go here, and you can see that that doesn't work, but you can also just think about the 7 and all of the available tiles it has. We have 3 tiles for this 7 cluster. We need to add 4 more out of these 8 tiles to this 7. But this tile is off limits to the 7. We can't use this tile for the 7, or it connects up to the 5. And this tile similarly is also off limits. If we were to use the 7 to go all the way down here and use this tile, then we would have to disconnect these 2 tiles to not connect it up to the 5. And that would only leave 3 tiles for the 5, so that would not be possible to solve. So this tile is off limits, and this tile is off limits, which makes these 2 tiles also off limits, of course, because we can't get past them with the 7. So if you count the 7 here, we have 3 tiles, and we only have 4 more tiles available to use, so we have to use all of them, and then disconnect the connecting tiles. And then these 2 tiles are marked for the 5. Now we move on up here, looking at this max 3 area. We have a 3 chain here, so this tile can't be marked, or it would be a 4 chain. That gave us a 3 area with 3 tiles already, so this tile has to be disconnected. This 2 is now done. The max 1 tile can't have more than 1 in a row. This max 3 chain already has a 3 chain, so this tile has to be removed. And then this 4 needs these tiles marked. Now here, this 4 cluster has 3 tiles, and we'll need to use 1 of these 2 tiles. Because of that, this tile that's connected to both of these tiles cannot be marked. If we mark this tile, then the 4 can't complete without becoming a 5 cluster. So this tile has to be deleted, and we get a 1 here. and we know the 1 will be one of these 2 tiles to complete the 4, so these 4 tiles all have to be removed. Now we can look at this 5 here, which needs 5 tiles in this entire area. And this 5 also needs 5 tiles, but in this area. But because all of the tiles in this 5 are included in this area of this second 5, none of these tiles outside of the 5, the shared area, can be marked. Because we have to have 5 tiles within here, that will in turn complete this 5 as well, so these tiles are all removed. Then we get this tile for the 1, and the 4 here is done. These 2 are marked, and this 4 is done. Some basic tiles here for a little bit. This 4 cluster has 3 tiles and has to go up here for 4, and then get disconnected. And we just solve these tiles normally. This 2 is done. This 2 is marked. This 2 is done. This 4 has to go over here for 2, but then we don't know yet. Well, we do know more, but yeah, whatever, let's continue here. So this max 3, once again in 5 tiles, we have to mark the center tile or we can't make a 3 chain, so that's marked. Because of that, this tile now has to be removed, or because we would get a 5 cluster, also just because we have to have the 3 chain for the max 3, so that's removed. Now we look down here again. So now we get 2 tiles here for this 2, which completes this 2, and 2 here for this 3, and we can now look at the 5 here, which has 5 tiles marked, and this tile cannot be marked. Now here we get a max 2 area, so these 2 tiles are in a 2 chain, we can't mark any more tiles connected to them, or it would be too many for this max 2. So these 3 tiles have to be deleted, and this tile will have to be marked for this 3. Now this 3 is done, and the 2, and this 3. This 4 needs all of these tiles, and the 2 needs this tile. Now here, if we look at this 4 and 6, we can see the same thing for both of them. For this 6, we have 5 tiles, we have to use 1 more tile, and it has to be one of these 2 tiles. Like we said before, or saw before, that means this tile that's connected to both of these tiles cannot be marked, because then we can't complete the 6 without making it a 7 cluster. So since one of these is marked, we can't use this tile. And for the 4, it's the same thing. The 4 will need one of these 2 tiles, and this tile that's connected to both of them cannot be marked and has to be removed. Now we look at this 9 area here, which has 3 and 6 and needs 3 more tiles. But we know we'll only use one of these 2 tiles for the 4, and we know we'll only use one of these 2 tiles for the 6. So we have 6 tiles, we'll use 7, 8, and then we have to mark this tile for 9. Because we have this marked now, we now can't use this tile or this tile, because if we use this tile, we've marked 7 for the 6, and if we use this tile, we've marked 5 for the 4. So these 2 tiles both have to be deleted, and these 2 tiles both have to be marked to complete the 9. Now the 6 cluster is done here, so this tile is removed, which gives us a 1 here. 2 tile, max 2 tile in 3 tiles means the center has to be marked, and then disconnected. And just some tiles here, max 1 chain, this 5, max 1 chain. And then here we have an area of max 2, with 2 tiles here in a chain, so these tiles can't be marked. And we get this tile for the 3, this max 1 tile can't use this tile now, because we have this one, and we get all these tiles marked for the 5. And finally we have the last little stretch here. So this 6 area can't connect up to here, because we have a 9 there, so these 2 can't connect up, so this tile is removed, and that means this tile is the only tile the 6 has left to go to. So the 6 cluster is now done, and this tile is removed. And we get these 2 for the 3 here. And here, this 8 has 5 tiles here, and 3 tiles here, so we already have 8, and this tile cannot be marked. That gives us a 6, so we have to mark this tile. And now finally we look at this area here. This 9 has 7 tiles total. We need to add 2 more tiles out of these tiles. But we can't use this tile, because if we go down here, then we've added 8 and 9, and then added 4 more tiles. So that's way too many for the 9. We also can't use this tile, because then it would connect up to the 10, and we can't have 2 clusters of different amounts connecting up. So the 9 only has these 2 tiles available to complete itself, and because we have 7 tiles and we need 2 more tiles, we have to mark both of these tiles. Now the cluster is done, so we disconnect it from the other tiles, and we get this tile for this 3. that now was the final tile we needed for this 10 cluster from way before. So this is done, and we have to disconnect all of the connecting tiles. Then we get this tile for the 3, and this is now done, and this 1 is now done, and finally the 2 is already done. So there we go. As I said, that is a pretty tricky level, probably the trickiest one we've seen so far. I would say anyway, I don't know, it's also pretty lengthy, but it is gonna get worse, I suppose. But hope you enjoyed, hope that was coherent enough to follow. It's getting harder and harder to like actually go through these without making mistakes and without slipping up with the explanations and stuff. But next time, I think we'll look at Cactus Ball and maybe something else. I don't know if I'll have time for more than that. The levels are getting pretty long. But thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time if you need more help. Bye bye!